Hi everyone, in this video I'd like to talk to you about energy literacy and how that relates to the climate change conversation. In my first video I had talked about how learning of the amount of flared invented natural gas in the upstream oil and gas sector sparked my interest in the environment, climate change, and sustainability, and a desire to understand more about the energy systems that we depend on. I wanted to continue on that theme and share some information on these interdependencies of our energy systems and how that affects climate change. We'll start at a really high level, and then we'll start going deeper into this in some future segments. So lately I've been enjoying a website called Our World in Data. It has some really good information as well as some great charts to help visualize various trends that are happening in the world. So I picked just a few charts that I'd like to share with you to demonstrate why I feel that we should all be paying more attention to the energy systems around us and more interested in this subject. So the first is the trend of global energy consumption for the last couple hundred years. Note that not only has our energy consumption spiked during that time, and most rapidly during the last 75 or 100 years, but how that spike has been made up nearly entirely of fossil fuels. So you can see huge increases in coal, crude oil, and natural gas. The second chart is population growth. So human population has increased by nearly 10 times in the last couple hundred years. This obviously can't be overlooked as one of the main drivers for increased energy demands, but you'll also see in the next three slides that our increase in energy use per capita is also a big driver. So starting in 1960 through 1990 and then 2015, you can see how per capita the increase of energy demands that we have in various parts of the world. You'll also note that here in North America, it appears that we're using well more than our fair share compared to the rest of the world. The next chart shows the rise in CO2 emissions. It's remarkable to see how much those have changed in the last couple hundred years. These concentrations are now at an all-time high. But maybe this isn't surprising considering what we've seen from the first slides of the amount of carbon-based fossil fuels that are being burnt. We're likely all aware of CO2 is one of the key contributors to the greenhouse gas effect, so that brings us to the next link here, global temperature rise. Overall, if we look at the total temperature increase since pre-industrial times, this amounts to approximately 1.2 degrees Celsius temperature increase on the planet. So I want to bring this back to the energy discussion. So this slide is the same as the first one, except it is displayed in relative percentages. So again, note that about 90% of the energy that is used to meet our demands comes from fossil fuels. So I really want to drive these charts home here and bring these together to not only identify what the issue is, but the challenge that we have ahead of us and the urgency to take some action. So we'll look at all these charts together now and reiterate that and how they're linked. So increased energy demands, partly driven by population growth, but also because of the amount that we're just using a lot more energy per capita. This demand is being filled mostly by fossil fuels. All of that carbon being burnt is increasing the greenhouse gas effect, and now we're measuring how that is changing our climate. I realize that this might not be news to a lot of people, but I just wanted to present these trends together and to think about this from a sustainability perspective. It's hard to imagine how we could continue on with this trajectory. So this is why alarm bells are ringing. This is why climate emergencies are being declared throughout the world. And I hope that this illustrates why we should care more about our energy usage, where our energy has come from, and the purposes of what we're using it for. So I encourage you to start building up your own energy literacy by exploring it from a few different views, a high macro level like what we've seen here, what's happening globally and nationally, what energy use, energy production, and energy policies are taking place. From a mid or meso level, what's happening within your community or at an organizational level, and at a micro level, what are you doing as an individual or a household. So in the video description, I've included some resources that you may want to consider checking into. I'll be exploring many of these myself and sharing some posts and highlights in the future here. If you have any recommendations for material that you think I'd be interested in, please share them in a comment below. And I appreciate it again. Thanks for watching.